In 2024, over 160 million store credit cards were opened in the US. Beyond a lot of cards, it's also a lot of people. In America, 47% of people have store cards, and 15% have 3 or more store cards. 23% don't currently have a card, but they did have one in the past. It might even feel like they're everywhere. Of the top 100 retailers, more than 50% have store credit cards. Some of these cards are great, but most of them are mediocre, and a decent number of which are predatory. Consider that 27% of people that sign up for store credit cards regret it. Today, we're going to look at why I think store credit cards are a trap and things to watch out for. If you're new to the channel, we talk about how to maximize your spend to get more back in your wallet, whether that's cash back or cool trips to once-in-a-lifetime destinations or first and business class flights for a fraction of the price. Big favor, give us a thumbs up to help with the algorithm. Know it is a bit of a weird topic, and if you know someone that might benefit, then share this with them. Okay, so the first reason I'm not a fan of store cards is their targeting. A lot of these cards are targeted towards less financially sophisticated people. Store card signups, so originations, are highly seasonal and they peak around November and December, so during the holidays and during heavy shopping periods. It's a pretty big rabbit hole and there's levels to it. A lot of the time, people don't even know that they're signing up for a credit card because it's being marketed as a free store loyalty program. You only end up realizing that it's a credit card at the end of the process. These are also being offered during pretty high stress situations. It's not people at home on their couch watching a 10-minute YouTube video on credit card reviews. It's a checkout after you've been running around all day, in line for probably 5 or 10 minutes, and you're probably sweaty, and there's a bunch of other people behind you, also agitated and waiting for you to finish. At that point, you're stressed, you're sweaty, and it sounds like a good deal. Most of the time, there's going to be a huge promotion or discount or other incentive. The problem, though, is that for a lot of these, it's pretty obfuscated and not explained in an obvious way. So for example, you might get a discount, but it might be for a very short period. Sometimes, even if it is explained well, it might not work mechanically. For example, it might be marketed as 15% off the item, that'll be deducted after the return window, but you might end up getting a gift certificate with an expiration date. Call me crazy, but I need more than 10 seconds to make a decision on whether I want a credit card. My second issue with a lot of these cards is that cash back isn't always cash back. Oftentimes, it's store bucks or vouchers that you can only use with them. Most, if not all, of these are going to require you to make additional purchases rather than covering existing charges. With most, if not all, of the cashback programs at the big banks, you can redeem it as a statement credit. Some of them will even let you redeem it directly into your bank account. The ones that don't are generally airline and hotel ones, but they're not marketed as cashback. With big banks, if you're keeping the card, then your cashback doesn't expire. In the same vein, number 3 is the fact that most of these have weaker intro bonuses. On the low end, it can be nothing at all. Maybe you end up getting a case of water, or if you're lucky, a tote bag. On the top end, it definitely can be more interesting, but that's not most of these cards. The average bonus cashback is generally about 10 to 20%. Oftentimes, it's on your first purchase and you have one shot, so you're incentivized to spend as much as possible. For example, as a foaming, here are some cards that offer 20% off your first purchase. Some examples are Forever 21 and Banana Republic. So 20% sounds great for that first purchase, but there's a lot of other cards out there from these big banks that offer comparable, if not better terms. For example, let's say 150 or 200 back for spending 500 in the first 3 months or in the first 90 days. Doing the math, 150 for 500 is 30% return on spend, 200 divided by 500 is 40% return on spend. If you're spending a ton of money, then that's different, but for most normal people, you're better off getting that 30 or 40% over 10 or 20 and have 90 days over 1 day. Also, a reminder that you can shop anywhere during that period. It could be 5 or 10 different stores, not just one. In that way, it feels a lot more natural because you can tie this into your normal spends, and most people probably spend in that range anyways, especially over a 3-month period. Whether that's groceries, eating out, or other normal expenses, or maybe you time it towards larger purchases like a phone or a MacBook. Especially for someone that doesn't spend that much, then I think it's a lot easier to spend $500 on groceries and food and necessities over $1,000 at Banana Republic. Also, if you are curious about some of the best intro bonuses right now, I'll link to a page down below. Especially if you're new to the space, I think you're going to be pretty surprised. On that note, if you are someone that wants to learn about cards and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. As always, make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. Heading into number 4, one of the other reasons why I don't like these cards is that they generally have weaker multipliers. For most of these cards, they only make sense for that store. So for example, let's say you get 5 points back for every dollar you spend. So in this case, it's about 5% back, but you're only getting 1% back for everywhere else. And also, the points here can only be redeemed for merchandise and within their brand. So 5% isn't bad at all, and it's fine if you had a lot of cards and you were picking one card for each vendor and you're maximizing that specific category. The problem, though, is that that's not most people. According to a study by LendingTree, 46% of people say that the card they use the most is a store credit card. The potential counterpoint to this, and what I thought initially, is that, well, these people are getting store cards because they can't get approved for other cards. That's not what the data says. When asked why people applied for the most recent store card, 56% of people got it for discounts and rewards that are associated with the card. Only 21% of people got it for approval odds because maybe they're worried about not being approved elsewhere. Other reasons sound a bit insane to me. 18% got it because they like the brand, that's fine, but 14% of people got it as an impulse because why not? Also, 12% of people felt pressure to do it, which is pretty concerning. If you shop somewhere a lot and you get value from the card, then great, but otherwise be careful. There also are some store cards that do surprisingly well for other categories like gas and dining. Even then though, there oftentimes are bank cards that do the same thing. Sometimes you might need 2 of those cards, but oftentimes you are getting even better rates. If you're optimizing for a specific category, I'll link to a bunch of best picks down below. Main reason being that they do change, and I want to make sure that the information is correct. Speaking of change, number 5 is changes in your shopping habits. Just because you like a brand right now doesn't mean that you're going to like them in the future. There are exceptions, and I'll talk about one of my favorites towards the end that I think makes a ton of sense. But otherwise, life happens and people grow. So back in the day, Mandy really liked Nordstrom, and she has the Nordstrom credit card. Main reason being free alterations on clothing, and it made sense there. That was 10 years ago, but we don't really shop there now. She kept the card for credit history purposes, but otherwise it's not being used. Compared to a lot of other cards, there's not value above replacement. Similarly, there was a stage where I loved Banana Republic and their black V-necks. I think it's fine, especially for the price, but I've moved on to other brands that are a bit more technical and better materials. Basically swapping out cotton for merino wool, which is better for travel. Another disadvantage is the lack of exit options. Credit card benefits change, that's a pretty consistent thing across all issuers. The main problem though is that you're stuck. With bank cards, if you don't like the card anymore, if you don't like the changes, then you can generally change to other ones within the same bank. For co-branded cards, it might be tougher and you might have to stay within that family of cards, but you might still have 2 to 4 options. With store cards, that's almost never the case. You're going to be stuck with that card. Again, things change, life happens, and your circumstances are going to be different. Your life and what you like in your 20s is probably going to be different than your 30s and also your 40s. For example, right now I'm optimizing towards travel, but if we get a player 3, then things change. Those bank cards are highly adjustable, which is nice. Also, if the business changes, if they go out of business, then you might be out of luck because you have a store card for a store that no longer exists. Last one, number 7, and maybe it's not fair, but a lot of these cards feel like debt traps. So we already talked about the targeting and marketing, how most applications are being submitted at point of sale with super aggressive sales tactics and hard to redeem promotions. Also the fact that consumers can get confused and they're not even sure what they're signing up for. Rewards can be hard to use and hard to understand. In addition to all of this, interest rates tend to be pretty aggressive. So across all cards, APR is about 24.6%. If you look just at store cards though, it's 30.78%, which is a pretty big jump. That's an extra 5%, so a 20% jump, and that's before considering compounding. If you're this far into a credit card video, you're probably not affected, but other people are. And to be fair, everyone is applying for these store cards. It's not just subprime, it's pretty much everyone, it's across the whole spectrum. So Prime, Prime Plus, and Super Prime are all in the mix. My fear though is that one side's winning and the other one's losing. One interesting thing is that 67% of people that make more than 100K have a store card. This is in contrast to 28% of people that make less than 30K who have a store card. So these cards have high interest, and there's people that make a ton of money that have the cards, but who's paying that interest? Okay, so there are a ton of disadvantages. What are some alternatives? One of the big ones is shopping portals. There are a ton of options, and most airlines have something similar, but my favorite is Rakuten. The idea is that they give you cash back for shopping at a bunch of places. The way they do this is that the store pays them for bringing them business, and they give you a cut. So for example, let's say Nike pays them 10% for bringing them business, and they're giving you 9% back. Also, you don't need to get their extension. I don't have their extension. I just go through their site and click through the links. Shopping extensions are a bit weird right now, so I'd be careful there. For example, you can see my shopping trip and clicks for Best Buy and Dell. It does depend on the store and promotion, but it can add up quite a bit. Some of these platforms let you take cash back or points, so you do have more flexibility if you are on team travel. If you're new, they have a promotion where you get $30 for spending $30. So if you sign up and you spend $30 in the first 90 days, then you'll get another $30. I'll link it down below in case you're curious, or go to AskSebby.com/Rakuten. Okay, so it sounds like I really hate these cards. What's the bull case? Let's take a look at what I would consider the best option. Given the nature of YouTube and content, I end up spending a bunch of money on cameras, lights, and a bunch of other stuff. They have a pretty interesting card for this. With the PayBoo card, you save on the tax that you would pay, or you get 12 months of financing. So right now, I'm currently visiting Chicago, and I would apparently save 10.25%. Back home in San Francisco, it's 8.6, and in New York, it's 8.8. Cards can obviously change, but as of filming, that's pretty good. Also consider that they have a ton of brands, if not all the camera brands, and also pretty fair prices. For example, let's look at the 24-70 GM2, and it's pretty much the same price as Best Buy. That's what I'm currently shooting with, and pretty good for travel. If you're doing more of a studio setup and you're getting a 70-200 GM2, then it's about the same price as well. So it's not like they're charging you 8% more to give you 8%. Sometimes there might be vendors that are cheaper, and even materially cheaper, so let's say $1,000 in this case. In those cases, I'd recommend looking for data points and seeing what other people say and whether they've had good experiences. I haven't shopped here, but I would be pretty hesitant, and I would expect to be in for a bad surprise. I don't have any experience with the brand, but people don't seem happy. Main takeaway though is to be careful of store cards. I'd ask yourself 3 key questions. Number 1, do you see yourself shopping there for the next 5 to 10 years? Number 2, do you spend a ton of money there where that extra cash back or the points would make a difference? Number 3, is it adding value to your wallet? If it makes sense, it makes sense. End of the day, as long as you're getting value, that's all that matters. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. If you made it to this point, leave a camera emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, what store cards do you have? Number 2, how has your view on them changed? And number 3, are you looking to add any more? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, share this with someone that might benefit, but otherwise, hope you liked it. See you next time.